Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at a YouTube video from Anye's Stories and Folktales called If Only They Knew Why Mirrors Are Not Allowed in Her Hair Salon. Before using a mirror, watch this. Now, full disclosure, we'll be dissecting this as a fictional narrative, kind of like a modern folktale, but, one that's ripe with some really interesting themes.
Oh, absolutely. These stories can be surprisingly insightful when it comes to exploring cultural beliefs and anxieties, don't you think?
Right, like they hold up this mirror to society, even if the mirror itself is a little, well, we'll get to that.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So picture this, Yasha's hair salon. It's the spot in Umuzi. But it's not just that Yasha's amazing at what she does, which she is, by the way.
Yeah.
This woman can braid hair with like superhuman speed. We're talking 10 clients a day, each getting these intricate styles in under an hour. But there's a catch. No mirrors allowed.
Now, that's a rule that practically begs for an explanation. What's the story behind that?
Well, that's part of what makes this story so interesting. You see, people react in all sorts of ways. You've got those like Adu who are initially taken aback, but then they're like fast braids, no mirror, whatever. Convenience wins the day, right?
Makes sense. Time is money, as they say.
Exactly. But then we have Zuri.
Yes, Zuri. The embodiment of curiosity didn't kill the cat. It just really wanted to know why that mirror was covered up.
You got it. She gets the whole no mirrors, no problems spiel, but she's not buying it. She's like, nope, there's a reason, and I need to know what it is. She represents that little voice inside all of us that just has to understand the why behind things.
And let's be honest, sometimes that curiosity leads us down some fascinating rabbit holes.
Oh, tell me about it. So Zuri, she's like a dog with a bone. She starts asking around, observing Yasha, and eventually she ends up talking to this wise woman who is known for her ability to, well, see into the spirit world, let's just say.
Okay, things are about to get interesting. I can feel it.
Oh, they absolutely do. Because that's when Zuri discovers that Yasha's incredible speed isn't just, natural talent. Turns out there's an evil spirit that's bound to her, helping her with those lightning-fast braids.
The classic with great power comes. Well, you know the rest. It's fascinating how these stories often link extraordinary abilities to the supernatural, usually with a bit of a Faustian bargain involved.
Totally. And in this case, the bargain is a doozy. We find out that Yasha's mother, let's just say she made a deal with this spirit when Yasha was a baby. The deal was that in exchange for prosperity, the spirit would make Yasha this, legendary hairdresser. But as with all deals made with beings from other realms, there were strings attached.
Oh, I bet there were. And I'm guessing those strings were a bit more like chains.
More like iron shackles, honestly. And this is where the story really makes you think about destiny versus free will. Was Yasha always meant to be a hairdresser, or was this path chosen for her? What do you think?
It's a question that's haunted humanity for centuries, hasn't it? Fate or free will? It's never a simple answer.
Definitely not. But speaking of things that aren't so simple, remember that whole no mirrors allowed thing? Well, as it turns out, that wasn't just some, quirky salon policy. It was about survival. Yasha's, quite literally, the spirit helping her, deathly afraid of its own reflection. One glimpse of its true form in a mirror, and poof, Yasha's gone.
Which, now that you mention it, makes a lot of sense if you think about how mirrors are portrayed in folklore and mythology. They're often seen as portals, thresholds to other dimensions, or even tools that can disrupt magic.
Right, like vampires, no reflections. It's creepy and fascinating at the same time. So here's Yasha, this incredibly talented woman living with this terrifying secret, and it's all because of a choice she didn't even make. Talk about a raw deal.
It's heartbreaking, really. Makes you wonder how many people out there might be carrying similar burdens, invisible to the outside world. We often see this theme echoed in these kinds of stories, don't we?
Yeah, and it's a good reminder that things aren't always as they appear on the surface,
Exactly. Sometimes the truth is stranger, and often much more complicated than we might initially think.
And that's where Zuri comes in.
Right.
She could have just walked away, but she digs deeper and ends up being the one to help Yasha break free.
It really highlights the importance of curiosity and not just accepting things at face value.
It reminds me of that saying, the unexamined life is not worth living, or something.
Exactly. Sometimes we have to ask the uncomfortable questions to uncover the truth, even if it means challenging the status quo.
And, it probably took a lot of courage for Yasha to open up to Zuri about all of this, too.
Absolutely. Think about the trust that had to be built for Yasha to reveal such a huge part of herself, a secret that's haunted her for years.
It makes you wonder if maybe Yasha saw something of herself in Zuri, that same curiosity. Like she instinctively knew Zuri wouldn't judge her.
which speaks volumes about the power of understanding and empathy, wouldn't you say? Sometimes the people who seem the most different from us are the ones who can help us see ourselves more clearly.
It's so true. It's like this story is this really cool blend of like modern day struggles, but with this old school fairy tale vibe. It makes you think about the consequences of hidden deals, these burdens that get passed down.
Generational curses. They're a fascinating concept, aren't they?
A little bit creepy, too. Makes you wonder about how much of who we are is determined by like choices that were made before we were even born, you know?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries. Are we masters of our own destiny, or are we playing out roles in a story that's already been written?
Big questions. But no matter what you believe, I think there's something really hopeful about the fact that Yasha is finally able to break free.
Absolutely. She finds her voice, reclaims her agency, and it's a beautiful thing to witness.
It gives you hope that even when we feel trapped, there's always a chance to change our story. But, you know, it also makes you stop and think, what hidden forces might be at play in our own lives?
What limiting beliefs or patterns have we inherited without even realizing it?
It's a lot to process.
It is. But the good news is, we don't have to figure it all out on our own.
Right. We all need someone in our corner, someone to help us see things from a different perspective.
Exactly. And sometimes that someone is actually, you know, a really good therapist.
Oh, for sure. Or even just like a really good book that makes you think about things in a new way.
It's all about being open to guidance and support, whatever form it takes.
This whole story, it really makes you think about those traditions or even just those little weird rules we sometimes encounter, right? The ones that make you go, huh, that's different.
It's easy to brush things off as just being like, oh, that's weird, and move on. But Yasha's story reminds us that there's usually a reason, a whole history behind these things.
It's like they say, don't judge a book by its cover.
You got it. So next time you encounter something that seems a little strange or maybe even a little off, remember Zuri. Ask questions, be curious. You never know what you might discover.
Or who you might connect with along the way.
That's what it's all about. Those unexpected encounters can sometimes lead to the most amazing transformations.
Well, folks, that about wraps up our deep dive into Yasha's Mirrorless Salon. What really stood out to you? The spooky spirit stuff, that awesome friendship between Yasha and Zuri. Maybe it even made you want to look a little deeper into your own life. Whatever it is, we hope you enjoyed the journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and hey, maybe take a peek in the mirror every now and then. You never know what you might find reflecting back at you.